Hello, everybody. Welcome. So, today we wanted to give you an overview, zoom out a little bit on what the process of coming off a psych med can look like from the moment that you realize, okay, I don't think I want to be taking this anymore. I think I want to try to come off to I figured it out. I've gone through the process and like, oh my gosh, wow, I don't have to take this every day anymore. Um, Dr. G has seen so many people through this journey. So I know that she's got a lot of wisdom and observations and experiences into what that experience is like. So let's get into it. Um, I think this is going to be a really helpful conversation for a lot of people and to be able to kind of put it all in perspective and to see, the journey from beginning to end, because it's a tough thing to conceptualize. Um, so yeah, tell me what that starting place looks like for people. I imagine the first step for a lot of people is finding you, but maybe there's like a pre-step, right? They've kind of are making the decision.
Yeah, there's the whole pre-ordeal. Usually
Yeah.
at this stage in the game and at this point in time, what usually happens is somebody's been on a psychiatric medication. Um, then they likely it's they're telling their doctor they want to stop for varying
Mm.
reasons. Maybe it pooped out, maybe they've grown, recovered from whatever they were going through in that situational period of their life, or if they went through something major at that time, which is a common thing, circumstance when psych meds are
Hmm.
prescribed.
Yeah.
They've come to some kind of recognition or realization that they want to stop or discontinue. Unfortunately, I think it's more rare for the doctor themselves to be asking, like, does this feel relevant to you still? Do you still need this? Is this still working for you? Is this something you still want to be on, or can we start looking at, having you come off? What I hear from people, what they report is that doctors are not, unfortunately, proactively asking them at certain points, like every 6 months or every year, even. A lot of times medications like this will just continually be renewed or refilled. So that's a
Hmm.
common circumstance. So they tell their doctor that they want to come off the medication. The traditional advising that they'll get will be cut it in half for a couple of weeks and then in half again for a couple of weeks and stop. Whether the person has been on the
Yikes.
medication for 1 year or 10 years or 20 years, that would be the same advising given because that's what's taught
Hmm.
to prescribers. That's what they're taught is a safe way to help people come off these medications. It is pretty much drilled into us during training, during medical training that, oh yeah, no, it's fine. There's not withdrawal with these medications. There's no physiologic dependence that of great significance. There could be a discontinuation syndrome, which is described as mild and basically told that if symptoms recur, then it's the original illness reappearing.
Hmm.
And doctors are not trained to at all because they're not even told that withdrawal exists. So they're certainly not trained to identify it.
Right.
Things
Exactly.
that are considered traditionally non-habit forming, like antidepressants, mood stabilizers, antipsychotics. Somehow for benzodiazepines, we've collectively recognized that, oh yeah, okay, but still the way I see people advised to come off even benzodiazepines, where we know that if you abruptly stop a certain dosage, it can be dangerous to your life.
Hmm.
Um, Even those people are frequently cold turkeyed or abruptly stopped, in other words, or reduced by ginormous percentages, and people struggle.
Yeah.
That's kind of the first point. So what a person will do is very innocently, and of course, follow their prescribers advising. they'll be a good patient and do what they were told to do because they didn't know any different at all. And they will then, oh, a couple of days later, a week later, 3 weeks later, I've even seen it happen 3 months later. Suddenly, a myriad and constellation of symptoms will appear
Mm.
that will,
After they do the rapid tapering.
after they do the rapid reduction or stopping, um, they will suddenly start to experience a myriad of symptoms that they did not have before, but may overlap with some of that original distress. So some of the withdrawal symptoms can mimic things like cause anxiety, cause mood plummeting, also can cause brain fog, sleep disturbance, difficulty focusing and concentrating, stomach upset, headaches, fatigue, body aches, flu-like symptoms, feeling like you got run over by a truck. And then when these are reported back to the prescriber, they'll oftentimes be told that, oh, see, you did need the medication. This is the original illness. You really are ill. You need this medication.
Yeah.
So that's the very common beginning of the story. Very, very,
Yeah.
very, very common. It's a smaller percentage that find me first before they've tried, or find it, or find safe and informed guidance about how to reduce. It's
Mm.
that's more right now the unicorn person. That's the maybe 2% of people who come.
Yeah.
The other 98% have gone through some significant episode of withdrawal unknowingly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
That
just being horribly gaslit the whole time by their doctor who doesn't know, right? Most of the time it's not intentional. Um, but yeah, it's horrible.
Yes, yes,
I look
exactly.
forward to the day when
Yes,
when we know better collectively.
yes.
Yeah.
Me too. Me too. And the gaslighting is off the charts, and it's so traumatizing because a person is having what many describe as the most horrible experience of their lives, the
Mm-hmm.
worst experience of their lives, the most horrific, the most torturing. Because if you think
Yeah.
about it, it's the brain suddenly going into a crisis mode. The brain's
Mm-hmm.
been deeply disrupted. So it's from the inside out that people are feeling so poorly.
Yeah. Because you're having both the symptoms of withdrawal, your body's trying to adjust, like there's all these things. And because it's the brain and because it's affecting our perception and our emotions and all of that, it makes you question reality too. Like you don't know what is actually how you're feeling and what is the withdrawal or what is something that was truly there in the beginning and just kind of got masked by the drug and now is right. It's like there's all these different things that are really impossible to tease apart, but it just makes for this like it's really hard to know what's real or where to ground in that process.
That is a huge one. That is a huge one. And that used to scare me, I think, in the beginning with deprescribing, honestly.
Mm,
I would get nervous because I hadn't been trained to help
right.
to help people identify, and to identify had not been trained on that. A lot of learning and researching and reading and really trying to just sponge up and soak up as much as I humanly could about how do you discern that? How do you help
Mm,
people? And that's a big fear for people. People are
yeah.
fearful, like exactly what you said about you don't know how terrifying. Like, am I really this sick, or is this me? Is this who I really am as a person, really? Or is
Mm,
this my brain's disrupted? That's a huge thing for a person to grapple with. And what I would
yeah.
say now, years, years and years later of doing this over and over and over again, is it is discernible to
Mhm.
to to a far extent. Is it 100% discernible? No, we cannot ever exactly know. But if you spend enough time, if you gather enough information and insight about a person, you will start to help right along with the individual's, feedback and, going through it together. You can make a pretty good discernment of,
Yeah.
is this original to the human being and or is this withdrawal?
Mhm.
And I absolutely think we could set up guidelines for providers and practitioners to
Mm.
just to help people make that discernment. Because a
Mm.
lot of people will say this thing, they'll say, I never had that before. Okay, yes, I had these things. Okay, yes, I did have significant, anxiety, and there was depression, there was sad mood, depression, things like that. And I never had these things. And like some people one of the withdrawal symptoms will be the feeling of wanting to self-harm or end one's own life. And they're like, I was sad or I had things going on, but I never had those thoughts. People will literally relate to some of the symptoms as like, that's just not me as a
Mm.
person. As a
Mhm.
person, I just know that. And so there's some amount of trust, that certainly has to be recognized and built in the relationship of the discerning. But I do absolutely think it is
Yeah.
wait, and the longer I do it, the further things go.
Yeah.
I just
It's
I
very
really
hopeful.
do think it's very, very yes. And
Yeah.
I think we drastically, vastly minimize
Mm.
the power of brain disruption by psych meds.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. So people kind of get to this point in the process, right, where they've tried to come off the way that their regular doctor, regular psychiatrist told them to do, more traditionally trained. And these things are happening that we've been talking about, right? A lot of every now and then, right? Um there's always the folks whose systems can take it and they right follow the traditional directions and make it out the other side. And they're I don't want to label them as the lucky ones, but because but it's I mean that's like easiest version, best case scenario. I wish you all the best. Like, right. What's going on in your DNA and how can we use it to help others? But not that I'm suggesting we study people like that, because that would be a whole different thing. But anywho's, so they've tried the traditional method, it didn't go well. Sometimes people end up like they've gotten off and it's bad, but they stay off. Sometimes people go back on or to like a different dose, or like they don't make it all the way through the taper. So people are in this kind of place where they're like, it's not right. This isn't me. Something's not how it should be. And then what?
Yeah. So then people panic. There's
Mm.
intense distress usually because of withdrawal and the confusion. They try going back to their regular doctor. Doctor says, "Oh, no, that not literally will say that's not possible." See, the thing about, and it's yeah, just sort of a sadness. Doctors really, I feel like, aren't trained to listen about
Yeah,
this. So,
yeah.
so they'll be told something to the effect of not possible, you know, and what most commonly happens is people get reinstated on that drug, the original drug that they tried to come off of. That's the most common thing that I see is they just jump back on. There's another thing that happens is sometimes they'll be tried on other medications immediately,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
what most commonly happens is they just go back on. Intuitively, they themselves reinstate it, or they talk to the doctor about reinstatement. and they do. And I'll just take this one particular trajectory because it's a common one, just to go with it for the sake of simplicity. So someone will reinstate, and then what'll usually happen is over time things will stabilize again, and then they will have a myriad of thoughts. You know, maybe it will be like, oh yeah, see, I needed it. Okay, I'll just stay on it. I know there have got to be hundreds of thousands of people out there in this circumstance right now, if not millions. If because I can't remember how many people it is who are on psych meds. Might be 50 million or something in this country alone. So it's got to be
Mm-hmm.
millions, I would say, are out there in this circumstance. They tried to come off. It didn't go well. They reinstated. They stabilized again and said, "Oh, I'm trapped. I'm stuck." Um, and then a certain percentage will want to go further, try to figure it out. So there they are. They're on Google. They're Google searching. They're chat GPTing to try to find the answer, because they'll somehow deep down know, like, for one thing, I went off the med. For another thing, whatever just happened with that attempt at coming off was not cool and not me. And I still don't think that I need this drug any longer. And they'll start researching, and you do not have to throw a stone but a millimeter to find immense amounts of information about that. This is a reality for
Mm-hmm.
myriads, many, many humans around the globe, around the world. This is not culturally specific,
Yeah.
but psych med withdrawal is a human thing, and they will start to find a lot of really good information that's out there, sadly, that is way ahead of, unfortunately, where their prescribers' information set is and knowledge
Yeah.
base is. I tell people, I'll describe, we're living in an information gap, which is a weird
Mm-hmm.
place to live, but it's where we live. So they'll find um, a resource and information. Either they'll find a website, a Facebook group. Now ChatGPT comes up with all kinds of things to inform people. They'll find YouTube videos, books, social media feeds about people reporting this, speaking to this, and they'll just do what we do as humans. We are great problem solvers when we genuinely want to solve a problem for ourselves. And this is a problem people are very motivated to try to solve once it dawns on them. And they'll do the research, and then they'll come across information and get total validation, not hard to do. And then they'll start to try to figure out, like, okay, how do I help myself? Sometimes they'll go back to their doctor and say, can we do a slow taper? Will you please help me taper slowly? And the doctor will say, like, that's not a thing. That's not a thing that we do. That you don't need to do that. I'm not doing that, because the doctor has never been educated about the need to do that or the way to do it, because the manufacturers do not make this process easy.
No.
If a medication only comes in 100 milligrams, 50 milligrams, 25 milligrams, makes it very hard to make 10% reductions or 5% reductions or 2% reductions, depending on the med and what pace is needed. So how to do that? Um, so then they will, okay, maybe they'll go to their doctor. Doctor says that not a thing. Then they'll start digging further. Okay, how can I, you know, checking again online peer-based support communities of, like, okay, how does a person reduce a drug? Are there doctors out there that do this? That's how people find their way to me, doing the research. I'm only licensed in 7 states, so it's finding someone you need is
Yeah.
such a simple thing. And then and then a different, so just continuing on with it. Okay, so they find their way to me, and
Mm-hmm.
then they're in various states of destabilization,
Mm-hmm.
secondary to the abrupt cold turking or reduction of the
Mm-hmm.
medication. And this is a really huge topic, I feel, about the state of a nervous system. I
Mm-hmm.
kind of wish It's like I almost wish in a way we would pull out psychiatry and really lean heavily into neurology,
Mm.
the science of neurology around psych med use and or
Mhm.
the nature of a nervous system. How do our nervous systems function? What happens when they get
Yeah.
destabilized biochemically?
Yeah.
Like,
Which
no. Oh, go ahead.
I'll just add, I mean, it's interesting, and this is based on my memory. So one could fact check it, but like psychiatry evolved out of psychology, not neuroscience, right? Like the order of, right, we had psychology, psychiatry, and then neuroscience. So it's not, they're bringing these things together kind of, one would think it would make a lot of sense to base, right, psychiatry in physical knowledge of the brain and how the neurotransmitters are working. And it was like not, we started messing around with that stuff like way before we knew what we know now in neuroscience,
Right.
because that field, in the last 10, 20 years, it's just grown exponentially. Um, yeah. So just for that perspective, that context as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And the study of nervous systems and what happens to them and essentially our body, because how do you, like we had that conversation before, how do you disconnect your
Yeah.
brain from your body?
The
You
body
don't
mind.
unless you unless you're not going to survive long
No,
pulling
no.
apart your brain from your body. So um yes, I feel like I kind of at times in trying in working with people trying to help them and to conceptualize the whole thing of what does a destabilized brain look like, a
Mm-hmm.
biochemically destabilized brain look like, and for us to not put the pieces together. We think, oh yeah, a brain can get destabilized independently on its own and cause, mania, psychosis, or try to say that that causes anxiety or depression. But why would we not be looking at it as like, wait a minute, these drugs also they're destabilizing a natural process.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the impact of that going to be globally on a nervous system? And then when a human being's nervous system gets disrupted biochemically, what does that look like in terms of the symptoms? And the symptoms are going to be their thoughts, feelings, and behavior. So, like neurology, like getting back to that concept of let's be sciencey about this. Let's really try to be sciencey about this of thinking of how can we study this further to understand it more so that we can stop hurting people and help people. And it's right now, it's just such a simple amount of information that would help, I think, doctors be able to hurt less people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Simply
Yeah.
put,
Yeah.
definitely.
So a person has had their nervous system destabilized by abrupt reductions, recovering from that.
Mm-hmm.
So the best situation is, and it's where I see a lot of people is they reinstated on their own before they met me, and or their nervous system is in the process of stabilizing or has stabilized to um, a reasonable extent. Sometimes, and well, plenty of times, I see people who are their brain is abruptly disrupted and they are experiencing severe symptoms. Um,
Mm-hmm. They find you
so
in the midst of it.
yes,
Yeah.
very, very. The thing is these things can make you extremely ill. Akathisia, and to be in akathisia in a persistent manner, that internal restlessness, inner urge and feeling of needing to move, and the terror and things that experience that comes with that. To be that in a prolonged ever for even a second, but even certainly in a prolonged state is a person to be profoundly ill, unable to function, deeply distressed, all the way to someone's like reinstated their SSRI and been on it for 6 months and they've restabilized or, is feeling a bunch better. But that initial part, so once they're going to come on board and we're going to work with them and help them taper safely. The first step, in my opinion, unless we're clear that whatever the drug is or the offending agent is causing some urgent adverse reaction, the first step is that, and that's like a handful of people over 5 years of needing to do a rapidly taper, but everybody else needs to stabilize first. And we need to because if we think about it, let's just conceptualize it. There was a brain disruption, or if you want to call it injury. I try to use now the word disruption because injury feels, I think it's scary. The word sounds scary, but
Yeah.
there's been a disruption
Because the truth is that this is recoverable, right? Like,
yes, exactly.
yeah.
Good point. And
Yeah.
another
That's
reason.
why injury feels like, because it's like, oh my gosh, am I ever gonna get it? Kind of breeds those fears a little bit more. But the disruption is like, oh, I know that there's an equilibrium on the other side. It's like if you throw a rock in the water, it's gonna be all wavy and choppy for a minute, and then it slowly, levels out. So yeah, disruption.
Exactly. No, thank you for painting that picture more vividly because that's exactly why I say that. Because when a person's brain has been disrupted, I choose my words carefully.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're already in oftentimes a state of overwhelm and terror, abject terror. So, and it can be hard for people to feel a sense of hope and optimism
Yeah.
when their whole perspective has been clouded by their brain being disrupted. So finding words that reflect the situation,
Yeah.
brains heal, nervous systems heal. The beauty is you have an incredible, unfathomable machine that you live in that was designed to heal.
Yeah.
The body was designed to heal this. It was designed to heal and repair. And I watched the documentary about Superman, Christopher Reeves. I never knew after 6 years, his hands started to move and feet.
Wow.
I think it was feet, but definitely hands started to move 6 years after being quadriplegic. So the potential of the nervous system to
Yeah.
heal is huge, helping
And
people
is way
navigate.
more than yeah, is way more way greater than we used to think. Right? We
Yes,
used to think that like neurons couldn't grow back or that there is,
yes,
right? And now we know neuroplasticity and all, and it just keeps surprising us. The brain and the nervous system are like, no, no, no. We're way more resilient than y'all thought. Um, yeah.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of hope for
Oh yeah.
very concept, neuroplasticity, healing. And that's what I see globally, universally. That's what I see. Even the most injured person or most injured people who have come have healed. Nobody stayed in their same level of symptom intensity. Nobody.
Yeah.
So it
Out of
happened.
all the people who were so afraid that they were going to be stuck how they were forever,
Exactly.
0%.
Exactly.
0% that's
Exactly.
actually true for. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm.
So then the stabilization process,
Right.
which means essentially, if we think about it, what caused the original disruption was an abrupt change. And when you start to study things and look at things, you start to realize what the brain really likes is constancy. It likes consistent, stable state. It can adapt to change, our brains are adaptable for sure. And I watch this all the time. And the pace at which the brain adapts is way slower than I think we've ever looked at and acknowledged scientifically, like
Mm,
medically.
mm-hmm.
I mean, I think in some arenas this is acknowledged, like concussions. And I do see a lot of overlap with like concussion and medication withdrawal.
Mm-hmm.
There's a disruption. It takes time to heal. The system is hypersensitized at that time. When you have a concussion, and we all intuitively know, protect that brain. Don't over exert. Don't get, people who, if you get that when you're playing football, you take a break.
Mm-hmm.
Don't re-injure. You're extra sensitized when that kind of thing has happened. So again, same thing. There's been disruption, but caused by psych med. The keeping things steady is the circumstance, or that is the atmosphere in which a brain heals.
Yeah, for the brain as an organ.
The brain is
Yeah.
absolutely an organ.
Yeah. Yeah,
Let's
I mean, as an
remember
organ
that.
versus like our thoughts and our feelings and all those things that the brain, the mind produces, the way that we experience it, that all changes moment to moment to moment, right? Regardless. Um, but the brain as an organ is the thing that takes the time to heal. Yeah.
Exactly. That's a brilliant point. We have a brain and there is a mind. There's a brain, which is an organ, which is a, thing we could pull out and put it on the table and it's an object. And then we have a mind which includes thoughts, feelings, perceptions, our personality, all of that. Where do those two, that's about 5,000 hours of talking about what is that? Okay, I don't want to
Yeah.
go there. Love that topic, one of my most favorites in the universe. But I think as humans, we can acknowledge we don't know where that even, where is that intersection, overlap, whatever. So anyway, but yes, the brain is important.
Yeah. Yeah. So people are in this place of needing to stabilize.
They need to stabilize, and we the patience to allow that to happen. So a lot of people will be coming in really anxious. I'm raring to go. I want this thing out of my body. I hate this thing. People are so grossed out by the noxious negative things that they've experienced as a result of being abruptly discontinued or abruptly reduced in their medication, psych med withdrawal. They're so horrified by that. They just want this thing out. I want,
Yeah.
like, they didn't realize it
Understandable.
before. They want it out, and they want to go as fast as humanly possible. And I have to do a lot of talking, a lot of educating about, I understand, but your brain has to heal first,
Mm-hmm.
then reduce, stabilize first, then reduce. Stabilization does not mean perfect. It doesn't mean cupcakes, butterflies, rainbows, best life you've ever had. It doesn't, but it means
Right.
relatively stable. It means you're sleeping consistently, regularly, a good amount, at least 6 hours a night, at least 5 to 6 hours a night, at least, preferably your normal amount of sleep time. You have to
Mm-hmm.
be relatively functional in your day to day. Got to be able to do the stuff, you know, take a shower, get your groceries, pay the bills and do the things you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then that you feel intuitively ready, that
Mm-hmm.
it's something deep within you knows, like, in a natural way, like, I can do this. My brain's ready for this now. A naturalness to it. That's a key factor. Because an outside person, I cannot go in your body and know how you're feeling. I cannot. Only you can. And that is such a key point of understanding, because, right, these, like we just were talking about, these symptoms that will happen will be related to your thoughts, feelings, your outlook. Only you can feel those.
Yeah.
Only you are knowing those. So that is the key piece. We need that piece.
Mm-hmm.
So there's other things that can be more externally validated, yes, and that internal piece. then if you can say yes to those three things, that's a good time to taper. If you
Mm-hmm.
can't, and sometimes there's sort of a little bit of a, sometimes for various reasons, we need to get things moving or start going on it. Okay, but then we have to go just ultra tiny, ultra slow while your brain's catching up in the healing process. So sometimes people can't mentally, they're, oh, I can't hold anymore. I just can't, I need to start. Okay, well, then let's go ultra tiny in that reduction with
Mm-hmm.
good lengthy hold times to let your brain continue to heal. But then once the brain reaches a certain stage of healing, it just becomes very, I'm serious. Like someone can come in very destabilized, really suffering, get into their taper, and once things have stabilized, they got going, can really go through a taper in relative comfort, not perfection, not that there wouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
nuisance level symptoms. And I think as providers, we should be trained to help people if they're going to reduce and taper that withdrawal symptoms should be nuisance level,
Yeah.
not wreck your life level or
Right.
disruptive level, you can't function level. None of that.
No.
None of that. That
No.
is so abjectly inhumane. Nuisance level, like, oh yeah, for a couple of days, I noticed a little bit more anxiety or, you know,
Mm-hmm. A little more
didn't sleep as well.
tired. Like, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't want to like go see my friends that week, or and these things that we kind of, if you take it out of context, you would just be like, ah, yeah, I just had an off week, or, you know, that level.
Yes.
That's the reasonable, the expected.
Yes.
That's nuisance level.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Because then
Exactly.
people get, and what you said, like once they kind of start, the brain is able to stabilize. It's always kind of like destabilizing a smidgen, right? With like each little taper, but it's like so low. And that's the idea, is that it's so low that it's nuisance level, that it's teeny tiny, that it's like very, very, very manageable. Um, and then you kind of get into a rhythm with it. Because that's the other piece, is that with making small reductions, safe, slow tapers, takes a really long time, which is hard to wrap your mind around when you're in the middle of it, or when you're starting it. But that's the idea, is that you can get into that kind of rhythm, and you're like, okay, I know, I know how this goes. And your
Yes.
brain, every step of the way is then like that little bit more able to be like, uh-huh, yeah, we know how this goes.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. And it can be very hard to wrap one's mind around that a taper of a drug can take 3 years. That's very hard, very difficult. Nobody ever told you.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody warned you. Nobody said, yeah, okay, you might be on this antidepressant for a couple of years, or you find yourself, somehow you've been on it a decade. Nobody ever told you a taper could take 2 to 3 years as
Yeah.
a normal thing.
And is that like for an SSRI, that's the average kind of timeline that you see?
Average, I would say it's not uncommon to see at least a 2 year taper.
Mm-hmm.
Depends. It depends what drug you're on, depends what dose, depends on
Yep.
how long you've been on it. Different ones
Other
are
things.
challenging, amongst the different classes. The
Mm-hmm.
But even within the SSRIs, they vary. Some are easier to taper than others. I think maybe it's a half-life thing or but that's what they should have told you before you ever swallowed the first pill. It's like, okay, we'll use this. And if you're going to use this, but please just know that at the time of coming off of it. And like you said earlier, some people, and those are the lucky people, in my opinion, some people can just get off. Okay, off, done, nothing, don't look back, no problems. That's fantastic. Thrilled for
Mm-hmm.
those people.
Yeah.
There is a giant section of the population for whom that is not the case. I saw some research, I didn't look too far into it, but it was an estimate of at least 50 to 60% of people experience withdrawal symptoms.
Mm.
And based on my observation, again, I see a skewed population anyway, though now, but I would absolutely feel that that's quite likely possible. Granted, the withdrawal symptoms vary also from in
Yeah.
severity. Somebody can
Mm-hmm.
have mild all the way to super severe. We just don't have a way to test for who's that going to be.
Yeah.
I think there's way more going on in the biology than we've given credit to at all. And we've seen this happen in other things in medicine, that we all don't respond the same way to one substance.
Right.
We just don't. I mean, marijuana, some people can smoke it, be fine, okay, off and on use. Some people smoke it once and become psychotic.
Mm-hmm.
We differ. We differ as people. So that recognition of who's going to have the severe withdrawal symptoms and who's not, we don't know. We just took these substances and we went off and running to the races. To
Yeah.
1 in 6 of us are on them. Or, I mean, so yeah, anyway, I'm sorry.
Mm.
All soapboxy moment.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah.
It's a worthy soapbox.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So people went through the thing with the traditional psychiatry. Stuff happened. Things were destabilized. They find you. They stabilize. They go through, or they begin, they're in the middle of this long, slow taper. So what are some other things that you see happen in this? Because this is the longest chronological piece, right? Like this of this whole arc. So what are some things that you see in this, like, okay, I'm just chugging along doing the work?
Yeah, so stabilization to then tapering. So during the tapering
Mhm.
process, we there's ups and downs. There's
Yeah.
definitely there can be ups and downs. Windows and waves phenomenon, that's pretty, that's been described ubiquitously throughout the different online support communities. Is there's windows where that's an absence of withdrawal symptoms, and waves, which is a period of experiencing withdrawal symptoms, noticeable withdrawal symptoms. So there's ups and downs along the way, um, for various reasons. Sometimes if the reduction pace is too fast, if there's a change in formulation, change in pharmacy, change in brand, sometimes people can struggle with those types of things. If there's a life event, somebody's going to move. Move is a big one, y'all. Moving.
Yeah.
Moving. These are positive things, even positive things. It's great to move. It's wonderful. Great life next step. But when your nervous system is sensitized, it's a challenge. It's a challenge when our nervous system isn't sensitized already. So things that are
Mm-hmm.
already challenging tend to be ultra challenging when your brain is sensitized by this kind of biochemical disruption. Um, I've seen trips to Europe or trips abroad, vacations, again, a positive thing. But with vacations comes a lot of new stuff and stress and food and um,
Yeah.
new relationships. So there's ups and downs over time. So we're tending to stay, well, reduction pace steadily, keeping things, on a consistent, steady pace. It's all about then we try to get people. I can tell when people are in the lane when it starts to
Mm.
just become pretty regular and things kind of have a tendency of smoothing out. And then over time, miraculously one day, they start to feel a bit better. literally, and I just spoke with someone earlier this week. It was so delightful. She's just really feeling herself again.
Mm.
She's like, I haven't felt this in so long. I'm feeling like me again. I'm feeling hope and happiness again in a different way. It's just so awesome and exciting.
Yeah.
But along the way, there's ups and downs. But what we're looking for is I always tell people the trajectory we're looking is the upward trajectory and
Mm.
how you feel and how you're doing and your well-being. Along the way, there's going to be this.
Right.
So we ride the this. I'm always watching for this, like keeping a track of and watching people for that because it helps.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you're hitting the low, somebody's there going like, hey, nope, it's still on. You're still in the right lane. Keeping people
Yeah.
in the lane because there's a tendency that like it's helpful if they have bumpers. like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you're okay, you're in the lane. It's gonna be challenges, but to have another person there watching your trajectory to make sure that you are, staying in the lane, that things are progressing overall, major, because what our minds will tell us in those moments of feeling funky, feeling
Mm.
yucky, bad, withdrawal, um, the mind is not just a good judge of reality.
Mm.
I think
No.
we can all know that, right? Whenever you were deeply distressed, were you the best judge of your real life? Or was it maybe slightly skewed toward supporting people? But then also I see people kind of start to hit a stride when they really understand, like, wow, I am feeling so much better from being relieved by the medication burden, and their brain has healed and or is healing and adapting all the while, and the brain's going, yes, feels good, ooh yeah. and then and then one day you wake up and it's 0 milligrams. Just had somebody this week, 0 milligrams after a multi-year benzodiazepine taper. Brilliant, just brilliantly done, and very well, happy person.
Fantastic. So good to hear.
That's and then okay, and everybody wants to know afterward. So just one, I'll just add
Mm.
PS after zero.
The epilogue.
The epilogue. After you've gone to zero, if you have done the gradual taper at a pace that your brain and body can tolerate, zero is done. It's sayonara. It's I'm finito.
Mm-hmm.
It's
El finito. Yeah.
it's thank you so much. Bye bye. It's done.
Mm-hmm.
If you've gone to if in the what we talked about earlier, the traditional advising, cutting way too fast and then being zero is different than all the other reductions. It
Mm-hmm.
definitely is. And the body can feel it, I think, that last adaptation to zero. But then that's it. Your body's adapted all the way. You're done. I really, I mean, knock
Yeah.
on wood. Not, you don't get the calls back of people freaking out in 3 months or 6 months of sometimes here and there I'll get the call of like, hey, I'm not sure. Just want to check in about it. Okay. And we talk
Yeah.
through it and they move on their merry way. But when you've done it at the pace that your brain can adapt, you're finished
Mm-hmm.
with it.
Yeah.
So, and then your new phase of your life
Mm-hmm. The next chapter.
takes hope.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It really is. Talking through this whole thing, you can see how the color changes. And in the beginning, how everything is just chaotic and uninformed. Traditional psychiatry and all that
Mm,
jazz. Like
mm,
it's
mm,
just messy and painful. And then as you kind of like, you got to like slam on the brakes. You're like, okay, let's stabilize. Let's like find ourselves in the moment here. Let's see reality for a little bit. Give your brain a chance to like orient. right? Because you've just been in a whirlpool for however long, and you've got to like be on land for a minute, be in still water. And then you ride the waves, which are rideable, which are so rideable, right? You've got your boogie board and you just go, you got your goggles and your snorkel and like all the things. Um, and and then one day the waves just like spit you out on the beach. And so it's, I mean, not that I wish it on anybody, but looking at it like this, it really is a beautiful process. It's one of those things that's like, but I think we can say that about a lot of things we wish nobody ever, like grief, right? We learn a lot about ourselves and the growth that happens and the healing that happens physically, emotionally, mentally through taking the time to go through it slowly with yourself, right? Like the willingness to, we've talked about kind of what it looks like, but the personal experience of that, um to be like, yeah, I care enough to do this really hard thing and to do it slowly and safely and in a way that is like the most loving and nurturing to myself, to my being. And then where that spits you out at the end, having gone through all of that with yourself, is something really special.
It is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I
I
like
think
all my,
most. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say a silly thing about my water metaphors.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
No, just I like them, that they're,
Oh,
it's just making me laugh today. But
me too.
yeah.
Me too. I like the water metaphors. I like that. I think probably any mother who's given birth
Mm,
understands that. I mean, even think about it. Look at nature, right? Like nobody wishes birth on anybody for the experience of it, the pain. Nobody wishes that, but look at the outcome. I would never wish this. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, psych med withdrawal and what people go through. I wouldn't. I
no.
just, and what I see, exactly what you said, what emerges out the other end with the person and the realization, fundamentally, universally, them understanding their own strength.
Mm-hmm.
You want to fast forward your understanding of how deeply strong you are. This is one of those ways.
Mm-hmm.
So, agree. Water metaphor, birth metaphor.
Yeah.
What other
Yeah.
metaphors do you want to throw on there?
Yeah. The Phoenix. I'm sure a lot of people have felt that one.
Oof, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Rebirth of, it's so brilliant to hear people say the thing of like feel like they feel like themselves again. They
Yeah.
come back to themselves or found themselves again. And with a whole new set of understanding and knowledge and wisdom, right? And autonomy, really personal agency or empowerment of like understanding, like, yeah, it's people come out of boot camp stronger, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Wow.
it. There's the whole
Yeah.
enchilada.
Yeah. From chaos to smooth waters.
Yeah. Well, yes, in the relative speaking of human life, because let's just all be
Yeah.
straight up totally honest, is human life is insane. It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of chaos and
Yeah.
continually being presented with something to solve.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, here's my next thing to solve. Oh, here's the next thing.
Yeah.
Here's my next thing to.
It's something that was popping up um for me that I think is a different conversation, but something that we didn't really touch on here is all of the supports and all the things you like, the tools that you pick up and the things that you learn to get through this process, right? To get yourself to the point of like, okay, I want to taper slowly. And that kind of first major stage of things, but then also learning to ride the waves and the things that you pick up along the way. Um, and you learn the people that you can lean on, the people that you can't, and the things out in the world that are there to support you. But then at the end, like you've still got all that with you, you know, you've still um you've acquired all of these things, right? Like your toolbox is packed, your quiver is full, you know. And that's kind of where I was thinking with like you've got your life jacket and your boogie board and your flippers and your snorkel, like, right? Like you've got all these things to make like riding the waves like easier, more comfortable. Like you're still, the waves still happen. Sometimes they're big and scary and sometimes they're flat and you've got to like flipper yourself along. Um, your muscles are a little stronger, you can balance better on the board. Like also, meanwhile, you should picture me as, like a 10-year-old child in Lake Michigan boogie boarding like that any chance I could. With the dolphin and the sunset on my boogie board. That was my favorite one. But yeah, yeah, it's a lot more than just coming off of psych meds. That's how it starts. That's how it starts. You're like, I want these things out of my body. And then, like any journey worth going on, there's a lot else to it. Um, and it's 1,000,000% worth it. Like anybody who's done it will say that. Yeah.
Agree.
Mm. Well, this has been a delightful conversation. I
Yeah.
am looking forward to. I feel like I have so many questions after doing our Zoom out on all these things. So I'm looking forward to getting to dig into those in the future. But hopefully, this has felt helpful for people, and we wish you all the best.
Definitely. Happy boogie boarding.
Happy boogie boarding.